Alright, I'm just gonna make this video real quick. So, I know I've covered this topic before, about this television show, which could be um, very eye-opening, because it's very subliminal. I mean, it's called The Last Man on Earth. So this is a television show called The Last Man on Earth on Fox, and they just came back with their return episode after a major cliffhanger. And it's odd that they came back from that cliffhanger with a very random episode starring Kristen Wiig. Completely random, just about this completely separate character, totally pointless. It has nothing to do with the story. The only thing that was relative at all was it was just some random story that was pre-virus outbreak. So basically, just they could have done anything. They could have showed the main characters of the show pre-virus outbreak, but they choose to finally show what life was like or things going on pre-viral outbreak in this show, and it highlighted this particular story of Kristen Wiig's random ass character, and it just made no sense. But I think there's something to be seen here because there's a lot of subliminal messages, and I mean a lot of subliminal messages put into this one show. And I'm going to get to the biggest one, in my opinion, at the end, something that many people would miss. Um, okay, so first off, you might be thinking, well, this right here, Fox Last Man on Earth, Got Milk episode, eliminates Trump. Pence is the president, and then it kills Pence and it kills the rest of Trump's party. Apparently, everybody in Trump's administration after him, either they get infected and then they become elected as president or something like that, and then they die. So it's like going through all of them die. Kind of like Designated Survivor. It clearly did that where, and again, you have that show on as well. You also have the fact that other TV shows have taken the spotlight that kind of seem to portray some type of assassination plot or some type of thing. It's a lot of political stuff going on. Of course, the media and Hollywood, they're all pretty much against him. But I think this is just controlled opposition. I think that it's all just a part of the game. But basically, in this episode, his whole administration gets killed, and they all become elected president. And that's because it's basically a designated survivor situation where president dies. Okay, so the vice president dies. Who's next in line? So pretty much everyone in line. They ended with Betty Davis or Davos or some, I don't know, someone, get elected and then die, and it's this random part of the episode. But this episode with Kristen Wiig, and you might think, well, wouldn't that be the most like crucial subliminal message? Okay, well, it's not, from my opinion, because it's one thing that the show is about a viral outbreak that kills, probably, like, it's exactly what the Illuminati or they're planning and depopulate. It kills somewhat, I don't know, 90 something percent of the population. I mean, very very few people are left on Earth, and so first of all, she's a rich person too. And she gets, the rich people, they get these really high-tech fancy bunkers. So that was one thing. But the interesting thing to note here was that, it's a viral outbreak that kills, the entire population. So that's that. But again, they've been writing the show and planning the show for a long time. And whether or not they wanted to make it seem like after taking this long break, they wrote and rehearsed and maybe even acted out these new episodes. It's still this entire story that in my opinion, they knew about, because this show came out a little bit before all of this political stuff was really going on. So to go so far as to do the whole Trump thing and his whole administration dies and all that. I mean, yeah, anything can happen. They could have changed it. It could have been last minute changes. They could have changed it when they figured out the new, whatever. But in my opinion, I think this show was written, they had this idea, this story. I think these stories are written and they know exactly the way it's going to go, because there was an episode, and the thing I'm mentioning is because if you're familiar with the show, earlier in the series, there was an episode where they see a drone, and the drone is flying over, and it's never really answered where the drone comes from. Later on, people come to the thing when they introduce the guy again, the crazy guy from the boat, whatever, the Hollywood's typical conspiracy theorist. But and you just kind of forget about it. You assume that maybe it was their drone or whatever. You don't really know, but they never really answered the whole thing about the drone because all this other stuff happened. You actually forget about it. Hell, I forgot about it. But they wrote that into the show a long time, so they knew what they wanted that to be. They were planning for it. So that was way long ago. This is way before the break. So in other words, the story is unfolding. They knew that the drone was going to be someone. They were already setting up this whole Kristen Wiig. Maybe not her specifically, but they were setting up that part of the story long before it happened. So you have to ask yourself, do they knew exactly what they wanted to say and do in this episode when they got back? Because it really interests me that, again, we have yet again another viral outbreak show where, predictions of, the entire human population becoming infected and everybody dying, whatever. But it turns out that in this episode, Kristen Wiig's character was the one piloting the drone that happened however many episodes ago. And so that makes the connection. You know what I'm saying? That this episode, it was in the works. It was being planned. They knew that they had to connect it somehow. And so this episode is what connects it. She was the one piloting the drone. But going forward, what that episode was saying, and the thing that really stands out to me was the fact that it was, not only was it so completely random and try to distract you with the comedy, but the comedy was so mediocre. It was terrible. It wasn't a funny episode. It was just really, really random and irrelevant. And I think it was just like them wanting to say, oh, let's kill Trump and his entire administration. But you might think that's the most startling thing about that. The most startling thing about that to me was not the fact that it predicts all this stuff and whatever, but the fact that it was called Got Milk, okay? Why was it called Got Milk? It was just because that's such a random thing in the show. And I didn't think of it at first. I just thought it was an annoying thing that they were trying to be funny about. But it's called Got Milk, okay? And she's trying to get her dog to speak. But why is it that she's choosing the word milk? Why milk, of all things? And why is the one thing she keeps saying year after year in this bunker, keep saying milk? Can you say milk? I think it's them trying to tell us, like, they were like, it's like saying like over and over again, like milk. And it's just so random to me, and I just kind of thought about it. But it's very possible that what they were saying, what they're trying to portray is that maybe milk, and I know this is probably not part of the show, but I'm saying from a subliminal perspective, from that standpoint, where they add these little tidbits into television shows and movies to kind of laugh in our face, or to kind of, put things in plain sight before they happen, to kind of warn us. You know what I'm saying? I think that the whole reason they were putting so much emphasis on milk is because they're kind of like saying, hello, dummy, do you get it? Like, yeah, in your face, like, milk. Maybe it's in the milk. Maybe there's something about milk. The virus comes from milk, because when you see in movies, there's always that thing, right, where the virus comes from. It comes from an animal in most movies, or it comes from the consumption of meat or some type of dairy product. And it's funny how in the past, in real life, there has been things about milk, problems with milk. There's been all kinds of problems with cows. And they went, think about it, they went from we had this whole swine flu, bird flu, they went from pigs to chickens. What if just the next, false flag viral outbreak that they want everybody to get vaccinated for is cows? How much more are people going to continue with this whole farm mentality? That's the way they see us, right? We're just this slave working society, these sheeple-minded people, the sheep, right? So you have the sheep, and it starts with the chickens. It's all these subliminal messages, right? We're the sheep, and then you have, you have the swine flu, you have the bird flu, you have now what? You have the cow. They could be, or, with Ebola and these other different things, cholera, malaria. It's always some type of animal-borne disease. It could be very possible that, unknown to the public, if they just want it to happen, they might not ever pull the lid off of it. It might not ever reach the surface. But I think there could be some plan going on right now to either, I don't know, irradiate the milk, or, do something with it, transmit some type of a virus in milk, which would also mean that eating any dairy product where anybody makes dairy products, anybody makes food. We're talking about milk being used in many different things. So it doesn't matter if you drink milk, it could be in any product. So let's just say that they're planning some type of new viral outbreak that's not going to really hit the mainstream. And it's just going to happen, right? It's just going to take the world by storm. Depopulation, eugenics, whatever. They could do something. It could be in milk, and that's the reason why everybody gets the virus. So it could be them saying to us before it ever happens that there is going to be some type of a viral outbreak, and maybe it's from the milk. So maybe avoid drinking milk, or find an alternative to milk, or something like that, or avoid drinking any kind of dairy or eating any kind of product that could have been baked or made with the use of milk, because no one, people who make food, they're not going to use any other specific type of milk. Now, it could be all milk, it could be different types of milk, but milk in general, whatever the milk that everybody just probably goes to the store and buy, this is what we're talking about. It could be very possible that something is going to be in the milk, because again, it's always the same. It's always the same thing. It's again, it was, food and animals. This is how they continue to play upon the transmission of diseases and these types of things, getting us vaccinated. It's always striking us in the worst way possible. The thing that would be most unavoidable. Animals, food. How do we avoid those things in order to stay safe, right? So it could be the next big false flag, or it could be something that's just in the works that no one's ever going to know about until it's too late. It's just a secret. And they were basically in this new episode, basically giving us the secret right out in the open, just repeating it over and over, trying to embed that thought, embed that word, putting emphasis on it. Like, yeah, got milk, do you get it? It's that. And it's also strange how got milk anyways is like a big thing anyway. Celebrities endorse it, the whole advertising, you see it everywhere. This could be a part of the programming, another form of programming that, through subliminal messages over however many years, just driving your car, watching TV, seeing commercials, you've had some type of a milk commercial or milk ad or something about milk. It's very possible that, they could be using that as the carrier. So let's just stay safe, stay aware, and continue to, keep our eyes open and point out these weird subliminal messages in, mainstream media, and the different little tidbits here and there, because everything that they say and do is some kind of a sign. And I know it seems to go overboard to think that everything's conspiracy, or everything's secret, or everything's, hidden, everything's, something they're trying to say or do. It's not about that. It's about keeping your options open and connecting all the dots, because there's always going to be one thing that stands out above the rest. And sometimes it proves, to be the most inconsistent or most irrelevant thing that is actually ends up being the most noticeable, or the most prominent, the most important thing. So, like, for example, that's how subliminal messages work, right? It's just something that might be right in your face for even a couple seconds, a couple milliseconds, a couple minutes, but that's how they do it. So it's not saying that every TV show or every movie that has ever been made is going to have every bit of dialogue, every image, all the props, all pertaining to some kind of an idea or plan or subliminal message. It's not saying that. It's saying that when you're watching something post 9/11 and you pick up on the fact that it's always 9/11 on somebody's watch, or they say it, that's what I'm trying to elaborate here. We have to understand that it's not going to be the same type of thing. It could be any new thing, any subject, any word. So that's all I'm saying is keep your mind open and look for material that is being repeated over and over again. Look for material that seems inconsistent and totally insignificant to point out as some type of conspiracy theory, but that's usually how it happens. It's something that right now we don't perceive as just something bigger. It's just a word. It's just a date. It's just a time. And until something happens, suddenly we have new information to be able to understand what that word meant, what that time meant, how it's relevant. So literally, that's what I'm saying. It's not all information, but it could be any information. So that's pretty much what I'm trying to say. And I noticed that it was very weird that this episode was doing that, and it pertains to a virus and global outbreak, and more specifically, real life events, real life people, so on and so forth. So keep your mind open. Don't completely avoid mainstream media. Use it, because that's the tool that they use to program the sheep. So it's your best option in order to figure out exactly what they want to portray to society. All right. Let it be known. Stay awake, stay alive, live free, live forever. Marauder out.